Hello and welcome to Sam Not So Wise. My name is Sam, and today I have an episode of Wisecracks, episode 3. It's been a while since episode 2 because life is being life and making it difficult for me to, put aside the time for such things. But what a treat I have for you for episode 3, because I have none other than Dr. Philip Chase. I mean, you guys will probably know him for being the GOAT of fantasy Booktube. But just in case one person doesn't know who Philip is, I will obviously put a link in the description to his wonderful channel. Philip is also a professor of English at a university in the United States. And he is also a fantastic author of The World of Adan. Of course, we have the Adan trilogy, starting with The Way of Adan, and his most recent release, the sequel standalone called While Darkness Gathers. Yeah. So, Philip, thank you so much for, there it is, beautiful
little
cover.
Plug. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for gracing my tiny little channel with your wonderful presence. How on earth are you doing?
I'm doing great, Sam, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this ever since you invited me, and we had such a great time in Iceland a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Yeah,
and you were so kind to drive me all over Iceland.
Pretty much.
Show me some of the really great spots. I mean, what a beautiful place you live in.
Get sprayed by a geyser and all that.
Yeah, we
stuff.
really got sprayed too. We got soaked. That was really fantastic. By the way, if there's any Americans watching, we were not sprayed by an old man. We were by a geyser, but Sam is obviously from the UK, where they say geyser.
British.
Yeah.
And then the ice.
But here, if you say geezer, they think you're talking about a very old man.
An old guy, yeah. I mean, English people might even think you're like talking about some guy from East London or something as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But also Icelanders say it quite differently as well. They say geysir. So we've got a lot of different vowel sounds going on.
Well, I would say since the word comes from them, they're right. So
yeah, there is a literal geyser called geysir. So yeah. Yes. So yeah, you mentioned it. It was a year since then. I got a little reminder of that actually from some nice pictures on Facebook. I think it was Facebook, maybe. No, it might just be my phone. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that leads me to the fact that I have almost been on YouTube now for a year.
Yeah.
It is coming up to that in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And it is all because of you, Philip, really.
Wow.
Not
all because of me.
Well, you were the catalyst, let's say. Like I met you and it was really fun, and I told you that I'd kind of been considering it, and you dangled the carrot for me, and that's what led me to being here on Facebook, on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I've really, really enjoyed my journey so far, especially, chatting with you and John Gwynn and the brothers Gwynn, and also on your channel. I've made some great friends and I've learned a lot in this year. So I just want to thank you for dangling that juicy carrot.
Yeah. So the carrot, in case anyone doesn't realize at this point, was that I had already known I wanted to talk to John Gwynn and Ed and Will about the Bloodsworn trilogy. And we were reading the conclusion of that, which the Fury of the Gods. And we were going to have a discussion on the trilogy. And I said, hey, Sam, you want to be in that discussion? If you start your channel, you could be over there, So that was the little push, I think, that led to, or helped, not led to, that's claiming too much, but it was a nice little push, I think.
I would say it's a big push, like that, with that kind of motivation. It was kind of like, okay, then I have to do this then, because
you're over 1,000 subscribers already in 1 year. That's faster than I think I did. Actually.
Close to 1,500. Yeah, I'm about 30 away from 1,500.
Bigger channel than I was after a year.
Yeah, I'm really, really happy with the progress.
Yeah.
So yeah, just thank you very much. I'm really grateful. So I always start with the most basic question, the easiest thing to answer, and that is, what are you reading at the moment, Philip?
Okay. Well,
I'm guessing a couple of things.
a couple of things. I'm not, and historically in my life, I've not been one to read multiple things at once, but
Same.
Booktube being Booktube, it does sort of encourage one to
Yeah, agreed.
have be juggling a little bit. So I am, in terms of the physical book I'm reading right now, I'm at the tail end of sort of Kaigen. And I am really enjoying that one for the most part. It's been a great read, and I'm actually reading that as part of the SPFBO Tournament of Champions. So if any of your viewers have not heard of SPFBO, it's the self-published fantasy blog off a contest started by Mark Lawrence, the author Mark Lawrence, who, out of the goodness of his heart, simply wanted to shine a light on great self-published fantasy. So he started this contest 10 years ago, and there have been 10 champions. And now the panelists, the judges, we are reading all 10 of the champions and ranking them essentially. And the one of the 10 champions that gets the most love is going to be the champion of champions at the end of all of this. So it's a really great way to highlight this contest, and I'm really happy to be part of it. Yeah.
And is it living up to expectations? Because I know it's a little bit of a Booktube darling, isn't it? Really, it's quite
Sword
popular.
Kaigen is much loved. Yeah, I would say I have loved 90% of it a lot. Like, there's some brilliant character work in there, and just some really great emotional moments. And the setting initially took me by surprise. It's much more modern than I had anticipated, but that's great because it's still dealing with a very traditional culture within that modern world. So it's got a little bit of that old timey feel, even though it's a modern setting. But yeah, I'm having a blast with it. I think it's an incredible accomplishment for the most part. I am having I'm starting to wonder a little bit about this ending. It's kind of a little like, okay,
I've heard this
where are we going with
before.
this ending
Like,
now? Yeah.
kind of slightly overly long falling action.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that I would have. I'm not done yet, so this is premature. But I'm beginning to wonder if this book would have been even better if it had ended 200 pages before it actually ends. But
Yes.
we'll see. We'll see. That doesn't take away really too much at all from the brilliance of what I've read up to this point. It's been a very, very great read. I've enjoyed it.
So a worthy winner, you would say?
Definitely. Oh, it more than earned its place as an SPFBO champion. So yeah.
Well, now you bring it up, SPFBO was something I wanted to ask you about, actually, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time you did it, right, you gave yourself a crazy task of reading 5,000 books or something.
I mean, yeah, every judge gets 30 books to read, and then you whittle those 30 down to one. However you do it, you may have semifinalists or whatever, but you whittle them down to one finalist, which is pitted against the other 9 finalists. And those 10 are read by all the judges. And then the one with the highest score wins that year, is the champion.
What time span do you have to read those 30 books? Because that's enough for a lot of people's year, more than a lot of people will read in a year.
Yeah, that was intense, my first year. But you don't have all that long. The way it was set up before, now it's going to change because the Tournament of Champions is sort of reconfiguring the calendar. Yeah. It's resetting the calendar for SPFBO because we're going to finish the Tournament of Champions at the end of this year. And then SPFBO is going to start in January from now on. It used to start in like May or something. And you'd have there was phase 1, which was from May until I want to say the end of October. And by then you had to have those 30 down to 1. So yeah, that's intense.
That is a lot of reading.
Yeah, that almost killed me the first year. And then the second year I got smart and I asked a bunch of people, hey, will you please be on my team and help me whittle down these 30 books to 1? And I had really 5 great people. They each picked a semifinalist, and I read those 5 semifinalists. And from those, I picked our group's finalist. And that was a lot easier for me.
That's a smart move, yeah.
Yeah, which ended up being the Tenacious Tale of Tana the Tender Sword. Yeah. But the first year I loved, by the way, great middle grade fantasy, just a ton of fun. But the first year I was a judge all by my lonesome self. The book that I picked as my finalist was Murder at Spindle Manor, which went on to win the whole contest on SPFBO 9. So that was cool.
Yeah, I actually have plans to read that soonish in the next
It'd
few
be a
months.
great October read, Halloween.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because at the moment I'm going through a lot of quite heavy stuff in terms of reading.
Oh, it's
And
a perfect little palate cleanser. Yeah.
that's what I thought. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit on the lighter side, is what
A
I
little bit.
believe. So
Yeah.
I feel like it would be nice to slip in between, and I really want to try and read some more self-published stuff. So I was
Yeah.
going to go with Gunmetal Gods, but I'm reading a lot of epic stuff at the moment. So I
I
think,
want to read that too. I hear it's brilliant, and
yeah,
although I have a feeling it's going to be on the heavier side,
exactly.
yeah, more grimdark kind of thing, or horror, leaning heavily into horror, even I think, or cosmic horror.
Do you think? How long do you think you'll continue with being a part of SPFBO?
Well, I haven't entirely decided yet, but the truth is, it's a lot of work, and I do feel like it's important to me to contribute to the community, the self-published fantasy, the indie community, if you will. I like the idea of giving something back and helping, Mark Lawrence's mission, which is to help people find great self-published fantasy, and so I really love contributing to that. But I also want to continue writing my own
Yeah,
books, and I am just way too busy. I'm way too busy. So I do need to cut back on something, and it may end up being a judge for SPFBO, in which case, I had 3 great years, working for that contest. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have done it too. But I haven't really made a decision yet. I just know that I need to do something different in order to give myself more time for my writing, because I put out 4 books, 3 in 2023 and 1 just this year. And yes, I had written them over the course of nearly 2 decades mostly prior to starting a YouTube channel. So it was not like I was doing all these things at once. But yeah, I'm at a point where I have a new story I want to tell, and it's a prequel to the Adan trilogy, and I don't have time to do it. I don't have time to write because I'm doing the YouTube channel. I have a full-time job, I have a family, I have all this, So something's got to change for me to write more books, which is really, that's where my heart is. Of course, it's in reading books and talking about books too. I feel like it's all part of the same passion. But I do want to write some more. So
yeah. We'll get to your writing in a little bit. I want to ask you a few questions about that. So you actually started SPFBO, a part of being the judges, in the same year that you released your books, right?
Yeah, 2023.
Do you feel like you missed a little trick there, and because you couldn't put your own books forward?
And that was part of the decision making. Was I knew that if I accepted Mark's invitation to become a judge, that would disqualify me from entering my own book into the contest, which would have been neat. But I felt like you don't always get the opportunity to do something for the community, and this was perfect. This was just, I thought, this is more important than me entering the contest, having the opportunity to give a little something back to the community. So I ended up doing that instead. And yeah, which is fine. And you never know. I mean, the way these contests work, there are a lot of great books that don't make it even as finalists, not to mention champion. A lot of great books. And sometimes it's luck of the draw, So I could have, if I had entered the contest instead of becoming a judge, the first person to read it might have said, ugh, what's this? I hate this kind of, whatever. Hopefully not, but you never know. So, and that would have been that, so who knows? But one thing I can tell you for sure is that it's been very fulfilling to be part of the contest as a judge, and to have the satisfaction of feeling like I've helped. That's important to me too. So
absolutely. Final question about SPFBO. A tongue-in-cheek one, because that's what I'm like, is, did you read any stinkers?
Oh, Yes, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to mention
No,
them
I'm not
by
saying
title.
I don't want to know what they are, but honestly,
Yeah.
did you read some stinkers, Philip?
I mean, to put it in the most kind way possible, I
You don't
think
have
that
to do
anyone.
that. This is my channel, not yours.
All right. There. Look, you deserve a certain amount of recognition for even having written a book. Let's just get that out there first. You've worked hard, and you deserve respect, and you deserve recognition for having gone that far. And that takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of work, and I think that you should be commended for that. That said, I think that a lot of people maybe don't quite understand how much work is involved in making a great book. Yes, you can write a book, and that's a feat already. But to write a really good book, a well-polished book, a book that will engage readers and won't bounce them out of the book because of all the errors or the plot holes or what have you,
Yeah.
that takes a lot more work. Because when you finish that book and you type the end, that's draft number one, right? And if you really want to write a good book, then you need to have other eyes on that book. You need to revise, get more eyes on that book, revise again, and on and on and on. I can't even tell you how many times I revise my books. I mean, I honestly can't tell you. And it's probably north of 20 times. Serious, over the course of 2 decades, you can do that, right? But yeah, so a lot of
However,
people,
Philip,
yeah.
is it true that is it maybe true that you maybe over edited? Not saying like in a bad way, but because you say that you enjoy the editing side, right?
Yeah,
I've heard you
yeah.
say that before. So
I think look, let's put it this way. If I wanted to make a living from writing books, I did pretty much everything wrong. you, you can't work for 2 decades on your epic fantasy trilogy and make a living that way. Yeah, you need to put out a book a year, and keep churning them out. And make probably also, especially if you're a self-published author, you probably also should make them page turners, if you can. And there's an art to that, so I'm definitely not disparaging that, but there's a degree to which I think, and it's true for traditionally published books too, you're going to sell more books to a broader spectrum of readers if you have a more of a popcorn, entertaining, page turning, beach read kind of thing. That just more people are going to read that, as opposed to something that is engaging the reader's brain on all cylinders, so, and you've got to find your place, as an author. Where do you want to be in that spectrum? It's not to say that you can't have something in the middle, but you have to work out, okay, how much of an art do I want to make this? Do I want to dedicate myself to the craft, or do I want to make a living at this and put out a bunch of books and get, a group of dedicated followers and readers and that kind of thing. So, but anyway, yeah. So yeah, I have read stinkers for the contest, and I think it's just a matter of these writers may not understand fully how much work is involved in writing a really good book. It's like it's a bit half baked. You need to work on it some more. There's potential here, and it could be a good book, but you haven't worked on it enough yet. And you haven't probably gotten all that much feedback from, like,
sure,
if you can afford it, a professional developmental editor and copy editor are probably in your best interest, and yeah, it's just a matter. It's not that they're incapable. It's just that they haven't put in that hard work yet,
it's worth the financial hit, paying for these
It is.
editors for the, I guess maybe you won't find the money in return, but you have a
You
better piece
might,
of
but
art.
probably not.
Yeah.
Odds are you will not make that money back. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So what else are you reading? You said you might be reading more than one book.
Yeah. So that's my physical read, sort of Kaigen, and I have adventured into audiobooks. So yeah, I just finished listening to Wistful Ascending by JCM Byrne. It's a fellow indie author.
Okay.
And it's more of sci-fi, so it's a little outside of my normal comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big sci-fi reader, so this might
That's
be a
right.
recommendation actually for you.
Okay. Okay.
Wistful Ascending. It's the beginning of a series, and it was a lot of fun. I listened to the audiobook because I'm relatively new to audiobooks. I don't have much of a library. And because I have like a 2-year backlog of physical indie books to review,
Sure.
just outside of SPFBO,
SPFBO, yeah.
I have a ton of books I need to get to, and there's another impossible task. But
Yep.
I have recently realized, I can listen to audiobooks. That's for me a very different activity. And it's something I do while I'm driving or while I'm making tea in the morning or whatever, so I'm able to listen to audiobooks sooner than I am able to get to physical books, just because of the sheer volume of physical books I have to get to. And I don't have much in my audiobook library. So Joe is very clever and figured out, Philip needs audiobooks, and he gave me an audiobook code for Wistful Ascending, and I'm so glad because I really had a blast. He has a wonderful sense of humor, and it really shows in the writing. But there's also some depth, some great theme work in there, complex character work, and it's very futuristic with lots of different creatures and different races out there in the universe, and with various abilities and powers and whatnot. So I had a great time with that.
That sounds like my
heavy
cup of
comic
tea.
book influence too, and I loved
Okay.
comic books when I was a kid. So like Marvel and DC and all that, heavy comic book influence in there. Yeah.
Very nice. You're actually answering questions I already had.
Oh, good.
about like audiobook stuff. I was going to ask you about that because it's
we can get into audiobooks.
new venture for you, right?
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm having a
What
great
made
time.
you take that step of trying audiobooks?
So my current audiobook I just started is The Prophet of Adan, narrated by Alan Walker.
Yeah. I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah. What got me into audiobooks, I had tried a couple times before because people who love audiobooks rave about them. And, I thought, well, I'll try. And I just couldn't. I actually tried some of the greats too. I tried the first time really trying. I tried Andy Serkis's narration of the Fellowship of the Ring, and that's a very high bar. I think he could be considered one of the best audiobook narrators out there. And I just got kind of I struggled because it was even though I knew that story really well. I've read and reread Lord of the Rings so many times, which is why I picked it. I figured it would be easier for me if I'd picked a story I knew already.
Absolutely.
But I kept zoning out and kept rewinding because I don't like missing stuff, and it just took all the pleasure out of it. And I'd fall asleep. If I were doing something else, I'd be focusing on the other thing. Even if it was something as mundane as washing dishes. I missed a spot. Oh wait, what did Andy just say? I missed that.
And now my hands are wet, and I have to.
I
dry
can't
them.
rewind because my hands are wet. Yeah. It's like I always get an itch on my nose when I'm washing dishes. So anyway, it didn't work for me, and I thought, okay, I'm just too old, too set in my ways, whatever. I just gave up. And then I commissioned Alan Walker to narrate my books, and it took him a while. He had to find his stride and everything.
Makes sense.
But he put out The Way of Adan, and I thought, well, let me see what it sounds like, and I had heard a few samples, that he had given me, and I thought, wow, he's doing a great job, but let me see. And it's the stupidest thing because it's my own book, right? But I found it so engaging and fun. And I think that what made me just let go and enjoy it was I knew the story, obviously, and I wasn't worried about missing anything. So I could just enjoy the performance, and he did a brilliant job. He does all the voices and everything, and he's just very animated and brings the story alive. And even though I didn't imagine all the voices the way he did them, it's an interpretation. It's a performance. So I thought, maybe I can do this. Let me try again with Lord of the Rings, and I did. And sure enough, I took that same attitude into Andy Serkis's narration, and I loved it this time. Had a great time. And then I said, what else do I know well? I'm not going to worry about missing something. And I'd read the First Law trilogy a couple times. And I thought, okay, let me do that. And Stephen Pacey's narration, absolutely brilliant, just top notch. And I loved it. And I went on recently. I listened to Dungeon Crawler Carl. That is, if you forced me to pick the best audiobook narrator I've listened to so far, other than Alan Walker, I would say it's definitely Jeff Hayes, who narrates the Dungeon Crawler Carl book. I mean, it's just brilliant. And that's I'm talking about a stellar group of audiobook narrators. I listened to James Marsters do book A, The Dresden Files.
Yeah. Also
brilliant. So I'm still in my youthful phase of audiobook listening and enjoying the heck out of it. It's just added a new dimension to my engagement with stories, and I'm having a blast. It's really great. So yeah.
So it took a book as good as The Way of a Dan to kick you off.
I guess that's it. Or an audiobook narrator as good as Alan. So yeah.
So now your retention issues have gone away?
I still do think that I'm not quite absorbing the book as deeply as I would if I were reading a physical book. I can, in a physical book, I'm a slow reader, and I constantly go back and reread sentences and think about all the nuances and absorb that and catch things that way. It's much harder to do that with an audiobook. So I think in terms of, I still feel that if I were reading a very complex book for the first time, I would not want to listen to an audiobook narration of it. For example, even if I read on my next reread of Malazan, I don't think I'll listen to audiobooks, or Wars of Light and Shadow. I don't think I would want to, especially the first time, listen to the audiobook. I would rather, there aren't even audiobooks for most of those anyway. So that's not even an option. But I still think for me, if I'm familiar with it, or if it's more leaning toward that popcorn read, that entertainment, that kind of a read, like Dresden Files for me is more of a palate cleansing, kind of just having fun, and that kind of thing, then I'll do an audiobook for that. That's my preference right now. So.
Fair enough. I'm where you were before. I've only ever listened to one audiobook. To be honest, I haven't really tried. I've just never really been interested in it, really. I'd like reading my books physically. Like, nothing against audiobooks. Obviously, my wife only reads by audiobook. But the only book I've read by audio is 1984. And
which you love and are familiar with.
Yes. And that was, God, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago.
Do you remember the name of the narrator?
No idea. I can't even remember if he was any good. I was just loving going through the story again because it's my favorite. But I do plan on starting to listen to books towards the end of the year because my life circumstances are changing, which will cause me to be able to read less physically. So I'm thinking to start giving it a go, because generally, like, you're talking about, you do it when you're doing the dishes or driving or whatever, this kind of like in between times. That's generally when I catch up on YouTube, on the Booktube stuff. I generally use Booktube as like a podcast in a way. So I'm sorry to say, if any wonderful creators out there put amazing editing into their videos, I wouldn't know. Because
you're missing all the special effects.
I just.
Oh man, Sam, you're missing all my special effects. I put some
I'm sorry.
Videos. Yeah.
And that's kind of why I do my channel in the way I do, very basic, very limited in terms of editing, because that's how I approach consuming Booktube. So that's why I do it that way. But yeah, I'm kind of thinking of doing the same as you with actually starting with The Lord of the Rings, because I've actually only read it once, which is kind of shameful. The first time I read it was in 2020, actually, and I really enjoyed it. So I'd like to go back to it, and like a lot of people, Lord of the Rings is almost like a Christmas thing for me. Like usually we like watch the films together or something over Christmas. So I'm thinking of starting with that, and hopefully that will, kick me off like it has done with you.
Yeah. No, and if you're doing Andy Serkis, you'll find other narrations, but I listened to Andy Serkis's, and I think it was just wonderful.
That's
his Gandalf. You think that they enlisted Ian McKellen to do Gandalf?
Right.
I mean, it's that good. Other characters he does differently, like the Aragorn voice does not sound like Viggo Mortensen at all, but he'll do, like, for Pippin, he does a Scottish accent because Billy Boyd used his Scottish accent in the film. So, but yeah.
How's his Gollum?
It was close. It was close.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
He almost had me convinced. It was
All right, moving on. So Philip Chase, the best of fantasy. Why do you hate sci-fi?
Well, I mean, I just I gave the lie to your question already because I enjoyed Wistful Ascending. I do. There are certain sci-fi books, or some that are classified as, so it's easy for me to like a book like Dune, which has a lot of fantasy elements in it. Or I love the Star Wars films. Again, though, it's really fantasy in disguise.
Yeah, it's fantasy in space, basically.
Yeah. But I have read some real sci-fi. There are huge gaps in my sci-fi reading. It was never my what drew me really as much as fantasy, but I did love. Now I'm blank. Hyperion.
Yeah.
And Simmons. That was one that could have made me. Oh, there you go. Could have made me a sci-fi reader. Even that good for me was Hyperion, and I read the second one too, but I haven't read all the.
You did.
Hyperion. Yeah, a long time ago. I have them here actually somewhere under the S's. But yeah. Yep.
Did you potentially like Hyperion because of its link to Chaucer, but also poets like Keats?
And Keats, yeah.
Like that. Is that part of your immersion into that story and your enjoyment of it?
Yeah, probably it didn't hurt. But I think it was really more the actual sci-fi elements of it. Like Dan Simmons was way ahead of his time in many ways. Like he was talking about things in Hyperion that I think it's hard to believe that somebody. When did he write it, in the 80s?
It was 1889 it came out, so late.
Yeah,
80s,
so late 80s. It's hard to believe somebody had already talked about some of those concepts back then in a way that feels like somebody could have written that book last year,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So no, that was one of my few like real hard sci-fi reads that I can say. I wouldn't rank. I don't rank books and stuff really usually, but if I had to do a ranking, that would compete with some of my favorite fantasy reads for sure.
Good to hear. It's definitely one of my favorite books of all time.
Yeah.
But so is there a reason you lean to fantasy or maybe lean away from sci-fi?
I wouldn't say it's leaning away from sci-fi. It's more leaning to fantasy. You only have one life and so many books you can read. And for me, most of the time I follow my bliss. I like to enjoy what I'm reading, and I love fantasy so much. But sometimes I like to challenge myself and do something different, and that's also a way to keep things fresh and interesting. So I will read mostly fantasy, but I'll venture into other things here and there.
Can I play the devil's advocate with you?
Sure. Yeah.
Just because I really enjoyed doing that. I've heard you say and quote that labels impose limitations. So are you limiting yourself by sticking to fantasy?
The advantage I have. Okay.
I don't really think this. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
That's fine. I think the advantage I have with modern fantasy, especially, is that it's become so diverse and so many things. When we say fantasy, what are we talking about? Are we including urban fantasy? Are we including grimdark? Are we including epic fantasy? Are we include? You know, you can go on and on and on. And or
Transcendental fantasy.
Transcendental fantasy, or you could talk even about some of the authors of this little subgenre would be irked if I mention it in company with genre fiction, but you could talk about magic realism.
Yeah, haha,
Right?
yes.
I mean, it partakes in the fantastic, doesn't it? So, you know, that there's so much we mean when we talk about fantasy, and so I feel like there's enough breadth in this genre to introduce all kinds of diversity and keep it interesting and fresh. And the labels are of limited use for sure. They are helpful to some degree in finding books that might be of interest to you, and also, of course, for the publishers to market their books.
Yes.
But if you're someone who says to yourself, I only read, you know, whatever
XYZ, yeah,
I only read romance, or I only read fantasy, or I only read horror, then my gosh, you're limiting yourself a lot, aren't you? Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So it's not something that is inherent with sci-fi. It's just that you love fantasy so much, and it
provides
provides you with enough breadth that you don't feel as
well,
much
and
of a need
that, and
to.
I also have a day job where I read a lot of stories.
True.
And
Yeah.
99.9% of them are not fantasy.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I don't talk about on Booktube at all, because I'm here on Booktube to talk about my channel is the best of fantasy. So I'm here to talk about fantasy, and that doesn't mean I'm not reading other things. I read nonfiction. I read a ton of other literature, but I don't talk about it here because I get to talk about that with my students. So yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have a sense that sci-fi doesn't resonate with you as much? There's none of that like the thematic work or anything?
Oh no, I think there's lots of great thematic work in science fiction. And I would read more science fiction if I didn't read as much fantasy.
Yeah.
But
honestly,
yeah.
it's a problem for people like me, because you talk about the breadth and depth of fantasy, right?
Yeah.
That also very much exists in sci-fi. And
oh,
so
sure. Yeah.
being like, I find it hard to decide which I like more. If anything, probably at the moment, just current mood, it's sci-fi. But having this equal love of both, means that my TBR is potentially twice as long as yours in a way, which is a problem. So I really have to cherry pick what I'm going to read, and I get the FOMO of a bunch of stuff because I don't have a lot of time. And now, like you know, I'm well, it's not my job, but I'm studying. And I'm studying a degree with a lot of literature in it. So I'm also starting to read a lot of non-genre stuff, which is fantastic. And I'm really liking it. So there's just not enough time, basically.
Nope, unfortunately.
Do you have is there any sci-fi on your TBR, something coming up that you might be looking forward to? Now, I know that you want to read Sun Eater.
Yeah, that's
right?
the big one. Yeah, yeah.
But I want another answer, both because one, everyone's reading Sun Eater, and two, it's also kind of sci-fantasy, right? So is there anything that you're kind of looking at, something that's looking appealing to you that you're...
Well, I'm actually in the middle of rereading Book of the New Sun, which is probably more sci-fi than fantasy, but you could argue there is some, not in the same sense as the space operas or whatever, like Dune or Star Wars or Sun Eater. I haven't read Sun Eater yet, but yeah, I would say that if you had to categorize Book of the New Sun, probably science fiction would be the more appropriate. But if you when you first encounter it, it can feel more like a fantasy world in some ways.
It's a sci-fi in fantasy clothing.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that one is it's a reread for me. So I don't know if that counts. But but it's one that I have an interesting relationship with, because I can't say I enjoy Book of the New Sun.
Right.
I don't enjoy in the sense that I feel this strong emotional connection with the characters, and I feel invested emotionally in it. So the emotional part is largely lacking for me in Book of the New Sun. But intellectually, I find it very interesting and stimulating and fascinating, and the levels of symbolism that Gene Wolfe has stacked into this story. It's fascinating. So I have a kind of, I wouldn't say love-hate relationship with it necessarily, but it's not my typical relationship that I have with a book when I'm reading genre fiction.
Sure.
Let's say.
I've got two questions about Book of the New Sun. One,
Sure.
are you saying that you can't empathize with a torturer?
I mean, Glockta from First Law would probably prove me wrong, I guess.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
No, it's more the manner in which that particular torturer is speaking to us, I guess you could say. And I can't say much about that because it would be a major spoiler territory, but there is a reason why Severian has this dispassionate, kind of detached style of narration. But you don't understand that fully until later, so I can't talk about it. But he feels there is a lack of emotional connection to what's happening in the story and to the other characters. And I feel like, for me anyway, and there probably are fans of Book of New Sun who say I cry every time I read it or whatever, which is fine. But for me, I feel Severian's lack of emotional attachment affecting the way I see the other characters.
Sure.
And because Severian is not really, for various reasons, my favorite person in the whole world, I also find it hard to feel strongly connected to him.
I think that's a fair answer. Also, secondly, I've not read it. It's something I really want to read. But it's a little bit like Malazan in a way that I'm kind of slightly scared of reading it because of the complexity. And also, like Malazan, I kind of want to do a reread not too long after I finished it, and it's just too much going on. But for someone like me, because I know a lot has been made, especially Samwise, my wise Booktube brother, has been talking about, is the symbolism, the Christian symbolism.
He loves Book of the New Sun. Like, he is a huge.
He really does, yeah. For someone like, I know you grew up in a Christian family, for example. I did not. I basically know nothing about this stuff. I miss a lot of stuff when I'm reading it because I've not really grown up in this culture.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Gene Wolfe is first and foremost a devout Roman Catholic, and so is Tolkien, by the way. But you don't miss it with Tolkien. With Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings and his other stuff, there's just this general sense of reverence there. But there aren't these hidden allusions to saints and theology and doctrines that would be very particular to the Catholic Church. So in the case of the Book of the New Sun, yes, if you don't have any familiarity at all with Christianity, and especially with Roman Catholicism, you're going to miss a lot. Yeah, okay. I think that's just true. Not to say that you can't read it and get something out of it, but there's a whole dimension of that will be going over your head completely if you're reading it with no familiarity. Now, the good news is, if you want to get that as well, there's no end of podcasts and guidebooks and things. And
Samwise.
Yeah, and Samwise, who will happily steer you toward explanations of all these things. And I don't think it's that complicated. It's just a matter of familiarity with these things. Like, every human character in Book of the New Sun is named after a saint.
Okay.
That has to mean something, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't realize that, and you don't know, I don't even know who they all are, but I have this thing in the back of my head, like, okay, this is Saint something or other, and maybe I should look up this saint and find out the significance and see if that has any actual symbolic resonance in the story. But it's not just that; it's also themes that are central to Christianity are central to the Book of the New Sun as well. Themes like redemption and sacrifice and the idea of a fallen world and being and salvation. These things are very much at the heart of what Gene Wolfe is exploring as an extension of his faith. And so, yeah, it's pretty important, I think.
Okay.
I would say so.
That's very useful going into it, for sure.
But there are people who read it and don't know anything about Christianity or Catholicism and get plenty out of it too. So
yeah, I mean, I'll definitely still read it. That's no question. All right, I want to move on to a little bit to your educational side.
Okay.
As I've mentioned already, I am now a student. I'm quite a new student. I'm into my second term of my first year of my BA
but to be
in
fair,
English.
You've already been a student before. Just you studied music. Yeah,
I studied music. I studied up to master's level, so this is my third degree.
Yeah.
Life changed, and I changed with it. And I've decided to study English in Iceland, which many people, when I tell them, are like, why? It's quite
because
funny.
you wanted to move on to another lucrative degree, right?
Well, I was actually going to ask you something about this. Firstly, so I'm 35, so that's generally considered quite old to be going to university, right? People usually go when they finish their basic schooling, in their further education, when depends where you live. In the UK, it's 18. In Iceland, it's 20. I'm not sure what it is in the US.
18 when
18.
you go to college or university. Yeah.
So do you think there's value in learning as a mature student, going to university as an older student, a mature student? Or like, what are the differences in the values?
So this is a question that I absolutely love, because I actually don't teach at a university. Here in the United States, I teach at what's called a community college.
Community college, right?
Yeah, which is not quite the same thing. At a community college, it is after what we call high school. So after 12th grade, usually somebody's 18 or so, they can go. There are a variety of options. And actually, the majority of high school students today who go on to study at college or university level do go to community college because it's a much more affordable option. But most community colleges also are only offer 2-year degrees or 3-year degrees, but mostly 2-year degrees called an associate.
Not like a full BA.
Not a BA. It's an associate's degree. It could be the first half of a BA though. So, and here in the United States, we do have a heavy emphasis on a more broad liberal arts, kind of just general education in your first couple of years. And then in your third and fourth year, you typically get into your major, which, whatever it might be. But so we can cover that, at a community college. We can cover the first 2 years of a bachelor's essentially, or there are terminal degrees, associate's degrees, where you can go right into an occupation like nursing or, aviation or whatever. There's a lot of things. And so that's where I teach. It's also a place in terms of students who often move on from a community college to a 4-year school to do a bachelor's. It's also a place where a lot of people start over or go to university level education for the first time because maybe they want to change their careers or whatever. So I have a lot of older students. I've had students in their 70s, before.
Nice.
So you name I've had students in every, decade of their lives, pretty much. Even I think I want to say even early 80s once. I don't think I've ever had anyone in their 90s, but I have had early 80s.
So people just doing it because of the passion for it.
Yes. So the guy who was in his early 80s was a retired doctor who just wanted to have, take a literature course and took my survey of medieval and Renaissance literature course for fun. So, yeah, it's
what a strange man.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, and I don't mean anything disparaging to my younger students who are coming straight out of high school, but in general, older students get more out of education than the ones who are straight out of high school, in general, because number one, they've gone out there, they've worked, they've lived life, and they understand why they're there. They're there because they really want to be there. A lot of people straight out of high school have no idea why they're there. They're there because, well, you're supposed to go to college after high school, and they don't, because they don't know what they want to get out of it, they don't get as much from it. Whereas your older student is there for a reason. They're laser focused on their education. They want to learn. They're passionate. They're organized too. Often, they're just there. They're on the ball. And not only do they get more out of it, but they have so much to offer. That life experience makes you a much more interesting person, in my opinion. So you have a lot more to offer when we discuss, a short story or a poem or a drama or what have you. You've had more life experience. You've lived more, and so you can make more connections to the literature, and that makes you a valuable resource in a literature class. So I am all for older students going back to get either, whether it's a course they just want to take for fun, or a career change, or a degree if it's for the first time, whatever it might be. Typically, your older students are actually the best. So I think it's wonderful. When I have an older student in my class, I'm like, yes,
Yeah. No, I can really relate to that. I mean, I really did enjoy my music degrees and I was into it, but I definitely feel another level of just engagement with this course that I'm taking. And I feel really excited. Like every class I go in, I'm looking forward to the class. And I am that little nerd who puts their hand up quite often to make comments or ask questions or be involved in a discussion or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have others who are young that do that, but I'm definitely one of them more involved. But actually, my course has quite a lot of mature students. It's brilliant.
Oh, good.
Mainly because Iceland University, the University of Iceland, is very cheap. It's very cheap. It's highly subsidized by the government. So it makes it really accessible to a lot of different people. So if I was still in the UK now, I would not be doing another degree because it's just crazy expensive. But now,
being in the United States,
yeah, I mean, it's a
Even
nightmare. But in Iceland, it's 75,000 kroner, which sounds like a lot. But in English money, it's like £450 or something for a year of studies,
Oh, wow.
which is peanuts. It's nothing. So
Can you imagine a culture where education is seen as something that is more important than making a profit, that we're investing in people, and we don't need this to be a profit-making venture? Wow.
Yeah.
What a concept, huh?
Yeah, I know. Revolutionary.
Yeah. And maybe even more conducive to actually learning stuff.
Yeah. And even further than that, in this university, you can take as long as you want to do the course. Right? You can literally just do one module a year for 18 years or 9 years, I guess, if you wanted to. Just split it up as much as you want, which allows people to study alongside having a full-time job and a family and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it's really a beautiful place, actually. I think it's wonderful. People should move to Iceland and study at the University of Iceland.
Don't tempt me. I'd love to.
But speaking of things such as making money, now we both obviously know that studying shouldn't really necessarily be about the end product and like going into a job, right? You're there to learn and become a better person and to utilize the things you learn in everyday life, right? As well as potentially a career. But obviously you work and I study in the humanities, right? Which may not necessarily be the best for making money. I've gone from one very difficult subject into another very difficult subject, notorious for being difficult for making money. So speaking of like pragmatic benefits of learning something like English, what kind of careers can someone like me go into when I've finished my degree?
Yeah. This is a great question, because I think there's this stereotype that the English major or the philosophy major or what have you, whatever humanities degree you want to think of, is somehow not practical and they're not going to end up with a good job. This could not be further from the truth. When you look at what employers want, survey after survey, especially now that AI has actually made it so that critical thinking we're in a bit of a crisis now, because our students are less and less able to think critically because they're using AI for everything. And AI has been seen in several studies now to actually have a detrimental effect on your ability to think critically. If you're leaning on AI to do your writing and your thinking for you, then you're not learning how to think or write. But traditionally, critical thinking is the wheelhouse of the humanities. And what employers want is people who can think critically. That's the humanities. When you're learning to write a research paper and analyze a piece of literature, it's not limited to just that one piece of literature. You're learning skills about how to think, how to analyze, how to perceive the world. And that is what employers need. They need people who can think. And if there are other skills involved in a job, they can teach you that easily. That's not that hard. So a lot of employers want an English major, not a business major, because they know that the English major has been more highly trained in thinking and analyzing and all of that. So there's a misconception that somehow if you major in English, you're doomed to be a waiter, or something. And not that there's anything wrong with that either. If that makes somebody happy, that could be a great a life too, I think. Although I've worked in a restaurant, and I did not enjoy it myself.
It's not fun.
And to be honest, not because of the work, but just because dealing with people who have such a huge sense of entitlement can be unfun sometimes. Yeah.
Can I just take a really quick tangent, because I had to do
Yeah.
a summer job over this summer in a bar, because my normal work is term time as well, working in an after school care. I had to, because I needed money, I had to work in a bar. And oh my God, people are horrible.
Yeah.
If I got to be the president of a country, I would make it mandatory that every person has to work for a month in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think the world would be better off
I agree.
if people did that. But sorry
I
to
agree.
detract.
Listen, whenever I go to restaurants, not very often, but if I do, I make sure we tip here in the United States.
Yeah.
Not everyone does, I know, but in the United States we tip, and I am always sure to leave a very big tip because I appreciate what those people are going through. And probably, unfortunately, a lot of people who've never worked in a restaurant behave as if they're owed all kinds of things. So
The best thing you can do to a server is say, thank you for the great service.
yeah. And be appreciative, be kind, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so to get back to your question, I think there are all kinds of applications to what you're studying now, and that it will make you, as you said earlier, it'll improve many aspects of your life. And I feel that it's important to be able to think, to be a valuable contributing member of a democracy. It's important that you have informed citizens who can think. That's vital. That's essential. So that there are all kinds of extensions of a grounding in the humanities. That we if we want to have a society that is conducive to a life that is good for the majority of its people, I think you need a society that is invested in the humanities.
I agree completely. One job that obviously can come of this, I mean, you have things like teaching and writing and all sorts of stuff. But one job that is kind of like pie in the sky for me, like if it would be my dream job, right, is the job of Mr. AP Canavan,
Yeah.
Critical Dragon, like being the developmental editor. So basically, for your job, you get paid to read things and criticize them.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not necessarily criticize, but be like, this could be better, this could be better. And you need that critical, analytical thinking, which we do a lot in our literature studies. How the heck does one become one of those?
There are different sorts of ways in which you could become a developmental editor. One is to be a freelance developmental editor, and you'd have to make your way, in terms of you'd have to get that first author to agree to pay you to critique their work. And then hopefully you do a good job, and word of mouth, and it spreads, and you make your way into being a freelance. And there are associations that you can join. There are websites for editors where they show people, here are the standard rates that you should be paying a professional developmental editor or copy editor or both or what have you. And it's pretty expensive. I mean, obviously, it's a huge amount of time and work to read somebody's manuscript and give them a page by page, if you're doing copy editing, line by line, feedback. So it's expensive, obviously. But otherwise, the editors would not be able to pay their bills. There's no way you can spend that much time on a piece of work and not get paid thousands of dollars for it. So anyway, yeah, you could be a freelance, or you could work your way into the publishing industry in a number of capacities. I know that, for example, Amazon itself does employ editors. They're, mostly you'd be looking at, though, traditional publishing companies that need editors. The other thing you could do is become an agent. Now, the job of an agent, primary job, is to sell that book to a publisher. But any agent who is worthwhile is also essentially a developmental editor as well. We'll say, this is what I worked with an agent before I eventually ended up self-publishing, but I did have the opportunity to work with an agent. And he didn't say, great book, I'm going to go sell it. He said, great book, but guess what? I want you to do this, and this, and this before we make a pitch. And I said, okay. And it took me a couple of years to do all that stuff, because it's a lot of feedback, and, very important feedback, which did improve the book. So you could become an agent, you could become an editor at a publishing house. And there are a number of different levels and options when it comes to that. Not necessarily an easy career to get into, because of the state of the publishing industry right now. It's not the healthiest that it's been. There's just a lot of competition. There's a lot of instability, let's put it that way, in the publishing industry because of the internet and other factors, they still need some editors, though, so you may get in there. Or you could be freelance, and there's a kind of booming, economy out there of people working. It's a little precarious because you're freelance, and you're going from contract to contract, but there are people who do make a living.
I mean, I have experience with that kind of work. So, being a musician, that's generally how it works.
And you live in a country where you would still get healthcare even if you didn't have it through your work.
Yes.
Probably. So good for you.
Yeah. But anyway, now my career counseling has come to an end. You used to teach a fantasy module, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
First question about that is, I've heard you talk about this short story by Le Guin. It's kind of utopia short story, right?
Oh, by the way, science fiction. I love Le Guin's The Lift of Darkness.
True. Yeah. It's a good book.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about this. And so I want to ask you the question of, do you enjoy inflicting pain on your students?
Are you saying this?
Because the story is quite brutal. right? Isn't
Yeah,
it?
the
That's very
ones that walk
difficult
away from
questions.
Omelas. Yeah, the
Yeah.
ones that walk away from Omelas. Um, that's a huge reality check. That story is, particularly when every time, and this is sort of going to give away a little bit about the story, but I'll try to be as non-spoiler as I can. But as people read that story, at first it sounds, oh, this place is kind of nice and interesting. Okay, well, all right, all right. And then you're led on a bit, and then you realize, oh, wait, there's this horrible thing at the heart of it all. This is terrible. No, this is awful. I would never want to be there. This is what a horrible place. Oh, these people are terrible. And then Le Guin has a way of turning it around and showing you that actually this is a mirror, and you're looking in the mirror at yourself right now. And that is often one of the most jarring, painful experiences, because you can literally see the jaws go, oh, it's not someone else, it's us. This is what we're like, really, isn't it?
So the
And
answer is yes, you do like
a
inflicting
moment
pain.
ago, we were all gung ho. These people are the worst. And how dare they do this thing? And then you realize, oh, we're actually doing this thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read that one. I really need to. I'm slowly making my way through her short stories. So I'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask you, if that course was to come back, would you change it at all? Is there something you would now push
I always
in?
did. I always tried to change it from year to year. So I would sometimes I would organize it around a theme. Like the last time it actually ran, I organized, it worked really well. At the theme of imperialism in fantasy. And I selected books that were relevant to that theme. So yeah, that worked really well. But yeah, I try to change it up because I do like to read a lot of different things. But yeah, I don't know if it'll ever run again, simply because the humanities we're struggling to keep them in classes running these days. Not because students don't want to take those courses, but because administrators and state bureaucrats have made decisions that have made it harder and harder for students to take humanities courses. So there's been they'll talk, there's all kinds of lip service still, but their actual decisions have been uniformly detrimental to the humanities in the last decade or more. So yeah.
That's sad. Again, I'll make a pitch for the University of Iceland. Their
Yeah.
English course has both a fantasy module and a sci-fi module. So
Oh man. Yeah.
it's a good place. So you're writing, Philip. It's been a couple of years now since you started publishing.
Yeah.
How have you found the journey since you started publishing your books?
It's been deeply fulfilling to have anyone read your work and give you feedback on it, especially if, of course, they resonate with it and enjoy it, is one of the best experiences I've ever had. Yeah. And so I'm really deeply grateful to all the people who picked up the stories and read them and reviewed them and been gracious enough to talk with me about them. So I'm in a buddy read or a read along on the Brothers Gwyn right now of the Adan trilogy, and it's been such a pleasure chatting with the people in the Discord. That's where we all sort of leave comments and stuff. Even though I'm terrible at Discord, I've enjoyed interacting with those really wonderful people there. It's incredible, really, to have this become something that has gone beyond just me, and that there are people who, even recently, there was a discussion of While Darkness Gathers on Jake's channel, Nerd Level Rising, where it was Jake and Nikhil and Tom from Tom Orange. And Nikhil is, of course, the person who wrote, Nikhil. Who wrote the theme song for the Adan trilogy and did a brilliant job of it too.
Absolutely.
For which my daughter Rohana plays the cello. But yeah, just have to be able to just watch people talk about the books too. And again, it's fine if somebody reads one of my books and just doesn't like it. That's life. I don't think anyone has ever written a book that everyone universally loves. it would be boring even if everybody loved the same books, right?
Absolutely.
So, but that's fine. But it is also really fun when people do resonate with the story or parts of the story, and to hear them work out things that I was trying to work out as a writer. Because when you write, you are dealing with your struggles and with things that you're trying to figure out, and your relationship with the world and people and institutions in it, and to hear other people understand that struggle and empathize with it and even say, this helped me, or to have a reader get to the end of the Adan trilogy and say, wow, this ending made me cry, and I feel such a sense of release and catharsis. And that's what I wanted to do when I was a little 12-year-old kid reading Lord of the Rings, and I got to the end of it and was just blown away. And I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to do something like that if I can, So it's been a long journey to accomplish that, but it's been very fulfilling. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. Congratulations on your success. You deserve it. It's all 4 books I've read and enjoyed all of them very much.
Yeah.
Would you say that your expectations of being an author are lived up to, or very different to what you were expecting?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah. So I don't want to give people the impression that it's all glamour and riches here. Okay.
That doesn't look like cheap tweed, Philip.
This jacket I've had since I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
So got it for Christmas when I was 16.
Nice.
School. Yeah. So this jacket is actually way older than you, Sam.
Yeah, like I said, that's amazing.
So, anyway, yes, the fact of the matter is, wait, what was your question?
Living up to your previous expectations.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not all glamorous. The thing that I both enjoy and slightly resent at times is you can't just be an author who sits in their ivory tower with their quill and their vellum and write this work of genius all on your own in isolation, and then just throw it out the window and expect the world to receive it. And you have to do a lot of marketing. And that's not just true of indie authors. That's the vast majority, 90 some odd % of traditionally published authors are in the same exact boat of having to hustle on social media. And, it's something that I enjoy a lot because I do love to talk with people who've read the books and have discussions. It really makes me feel alive. That I enjoy. But when you calculate the amount of time you spend on marketing and social media, and you compare it to the time you actually spend writing, it's a little sad.
Yeah.
Because obviously you the heart of what you really want to do is write, but when you realize actually I spend more time on marketing than I do on actually writing nowadays, it's kind of like
it's like you've become like a product in a way, as well as an author.
Yeah, and that's not always a natural thing for people who like to write books.
No.
It's certainly not for me. I knew nothing about social media before starting a YouTube channel, and still am woefully ignorant in many ways, but I'm still relatively new on Instagram.
Yeah.
I've been on the thing that's now called X for a little longer. And I joined Blue Sky as well. I'm a miserable failure there. But yeah, it's just, you have to do this stuff if you want people to hear about your books. And it's true for indie authors. It's true for traditionally published authors, unless you're Stephen King.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know you're publishing a book unless you're out there hustling and putting out self-congratulatory posts that sound like you're tooting your own horn all the time, and that's not something that is natural to me. So I poke fun at myself sometimes when I'm doing it, and in a way that hopefully people get. But
as a big lover of self-deprecation, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Would you say so? Obviously, you released your books after spending a few years as a YouTuber. Would you
Yeah.
say that affected kind of how you released your books, or kind of your audience, and kind of how do you think you would have done it differently if you weren't a YouTuber before releasing the
Well,
books?
if I hadn't had the YouTube channel, then I probably could have counted up my friends and relatives and divided that in half, and that would be the number of sales I would have had.
Sure.
Which in my case is a pretty low number. So, there's no doubt in my mind that having the YouTube channel was a huge, huge, huge boon to this journey of putting my books out in the world. There's just no doubt, just the fact that somebody was familiar with me. Oh, I've heard of this guy. Oh, he wrote a book. Okay, let me try it. Some people are that generous. They're that kind. Or people who've watched some of my videos, whatever series it might be, Malazan or One Piece or whatever, and they say, "Oh, this guy kind of knows what he's talking about. Maybe he wrote a good book. Maybe I'll give him a." And I don't do a Patreon. I don't do other things where I ask people for money. So I feel like if somebody wants to support me through buying my books, I'm not going to argue with that, right?
Yeah.
So, no, there's no doubt that it's been a vital part. And the community that I'm part of and proudly part of here on YouTube, the community that's really focused on fantasy, but also on just books in general, and just passion and love for story. I wouldn't be anywhere without those people. There's just no way I could have done this, at least in the way I have, without having this community. So I'm incredibly grateful. Yeah, it's worked out pretty well for me because of that. And hopefully, many of them who do generously give my books a try actually feel like that was money well spent. That they were able to engage with a story that really spoke to them. So I'm hoping that's the case for a certain percentage, at least.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be very well received.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, again, I try to focus on the positive things. So I don't go to Goodreads and look at 1-star reviews, because that would be a quick way to that would be a downer, right?
Yeah.
And I have developed the ability to ignore people who are trolling me and that kind of thing, which is going to happen whenever you have any kind of presence on the internet that grows to any kind of significant size. You're going to
even little old me has been on the end of it. So yeah.
Yep. You will get trolls. You will get just unhappy, miserable people who want to make other people unhappy too, I guess. I don't know what motivates them. But you learn to just ignore that and focus on the positives. And that it's been overwhelmingly positive. So
Good.
Yeah, pretty happy.
How has Wild Darkness Gathered been received? Are you happy with the reception of this book?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had a number of very nice people write reviews on Goodreads, or rate it even on Goodreads. And it's still very small number because I'm not a marketing genius. And if I'd been doing things intelligently or cleverly, I would have written a prequel, not a sequel to the Adan trilogy, because now no one can read the sequel until they read the trilogy. So sure. I've limited the number of people who are going to be reading this book, which is, I think, some of my best writing in some ways. It's a very much more compact story.
Yeah.
Much more streamlined, but that's fine. That was the story I had in me, and so that's what I put out. I'm now writing the prequel, so hopefully that'll have bigger numbers when it comes out, because people will be able to say, "Oh, well, I've heard of this guy, and I don't have to commit myself to 3 bigger books. I'll just read the standalone here and see if I like this, and if I do, I'll read more." So. Yeah, but
I personally think you did a good job of including people who haven't read the trilogy. Like, sure, I think you'll miss certain levels of I don't know, emotional resonance with some of the
older
characters, right?
Yeah.
But I think you did a good job of making it clear what's going on if people haven't read it. That's just my pitch. If anybody's still watching now,
Which we are again, they're huge spoilers, though. Of course, if who cares about that kind of thing. If you read While Darkness Gathers, you're going to know the major events of the Adan trilogy.
But part of the enjoyment is experiencing that firsthand and feeling the full emotional beats from going through it.
I agree. And I've noticed that most people reviewing While Darkness Gathers have said you need to read the trilogy first, and then you can read While Darkness Gathers. I very respectfully disagree, I guess, because I do think and this is because of who I am as a reader, I don't mind spoilers as much as many people seem to.
Same, yeah.
So because I don't, the reason I write and the reason I read isn't because to find out what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's not the real reason I'm in that story. I'm in it for the transformation. I'm in it for the exploration. I'm in it for the themes and everything else. Yes, it's fun to get surprised by a major event and somebody dies. And if I'd known that ahead of time, maybe it would have had less of an impact. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think it does, because I've been more moved by my reread of certain books than my initial read many times.
Me too.
Lord of the Rings, the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I already know what's going to happen, but I still am in tears.
Yeah.
So I don't think that spoilers, for me anyway, are as big of a deal as many people seem to think.
I mean, we could probably talk for 2 hours about spoilers, so let's try not to get. I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah.
But I will just also say another pitch for that book is Philip put in a cheat code for this book, which is an adorable dog. So if you love adorable dogs, go and read the book, because you'll love the little doggy in there.
There's a puppy in While Darkness Gathers.
Yeah.
And I think it's an atypical animal companion for fantasy, because most animal companions are ferocious and like kill people, and they're scary, but also there's that adorable connection they have with the protagonist. Bella was just adorable. She couldn't fight her way out of a wet paper bag.
I also wanted to ask you, because this is written later, did you maybe put more influences in from your later reading experience, like maybe some Malazan stuff?
Yeah, they'd have to be there. I do think that Return to Adan, which I wrote after reading Malazan the first time, is where that influence may start to show up. I wouldn't say, well, if you like Malazan, you'll like the Adan trilogy, right? I wouldn't do that. But what I'll say is, and I've said many times on YouTube, that reading the Malazan Book of the Fallen particularly really freed my imagination and helped me to understand, oh, wow, you can do this in fantasy. Oh, you can, oh, wow, I didn't realize you could actually go here. Oh, and just the scale of it, the scope of it, the ways in which Erickson does things that are not necessarily uncommon in literature, but not so common in fantasy, helped me to understand, oh, okay, I can. So Return to Adan is what it is, at least in part, because I always knew I wanted to do that third part, which is the return. If you think of the hero's journey, you've got the departure. It's the first part, the first third. Then you've got the transcendence, where the hero has to be bigger than themselves in order to save the day. And the part that's often neglected in fantasy is the return. But it's a very important part of the hero's journey, where you come back to where you came from and you give that gift that you've gained in the process of your journey. So Return to Adan is kind of my version of that, and I think I couldn't have done that book the way I did it without having read Malazan first.
And I think it's a lot of people's favorite book in the trilogy, or the whole.
The majority of people who've read the entire trilogy, I think Return is their favorite. Yeah. I have a few who are like, no, it's the first book or the second or whatever. If you like action a lot, I think the second book may be more likely your favorite. And the first book, if you like I'm slightly leaning more toward that classical fantasy vibe of just wallowing in the beauty of the landscape or whatever. Probably that's your cup of tea. But the third book is for me where I took the most risks and where I think it gets the most interesting.
It's a very dynamic trilogy in that way.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I think so. Also, so the prequel that you're writing, so this recent book, While Darkness Gathers, as you said, is a more streamlined book. It's shorter. Is that the plan with the prequel as well?
I think the prequel, I don't know yet how long it's going to be, but I imagine it's going to be longer than While Darkness Gathers. I do want to stick to, because I learned a lot while writing While Darkness Gathers. And I feel like maybe, at least my goal, let's say this is my goal anyway, from what I attempted to do there, was to be able to get a reader to feel they know the character much faster.
Sure.
To be able to connect with the character within a few pages. That's hard to do. And I was trying to do that in While Darkness Gathers. And I'd like to try to keep working on that skill in this prequel, but also give myself a little more room, and perhaps. So it'd probably be something in between While Darkness Gathers and The Way of Adan in terms of length and that sort of thing. But yeah,
fair enough.
Which is still not a very long book in fantasy terms. Yeah.
No. And the grand future of the Adan universe after the prequel, do you have any kind of rough ideas of where you want to take it?
I do. So where I imagine myself going next after this prequel is done, and the prequel is 60 years before the Adan trilogy, I introduced some new characters in While Darkness Gathers, and several of them are young characters. What I imagine myself doing in the future is continuing with them, and they're going to be older, obviously, and instead of maybe teens, they'll be in their 20s or something, but I want to continue with them and see what happens to them in some longer books. So we'll see how many of those there end up being. Probably they'll end up being more standalone rather than a series, but I want to write several books, so they could be standalone-ish, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like maybe I'll visit them in their 20s, maybe I'll visit them in their 30s, and who knows, maybe I'll do every decade, depending on how long I live.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Any more incredibly frightening elves?
Ooh, I mean, I don't see how I could avoid them altogether, right? They're kind of creeping everywhere, aren't they? But yeah, yes. In fact, I already have ideas for the first book in that series of books, and to some degree that will involve revisiting events and actions conducted in While Darkness Gathers, and even in the Adan trilogy, in regard to the elf. Yeah.
Nice. So, exciting. Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you all day. So there's many things I feel like I could talk about forever. For example, I didn't even talk about my Malazan journey so far.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, I just want to say that I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you're reading it, and you liked Gardens of the Moon. So
I loved it, yeah.
Loved Gardens of the Moon, so that's a good sign. And yeah.
I'm 75% the way through Deadhouse Gates at the moment.
Okay.
I was hoping to be able to finish it before this chat so we could talk about it a bit, but life happened.
And it's a long book.
So. It's a long book, and it does kind of increase the complexity a little bit. So it's taken me a little bit more time to get into this one, to kind of really get my footing in a way. But at this stage, I am 100% in, and very much looking forward to the ending, because I'm sure it's going to be wild.
Yeah. Are you a crier, Sam? Do you cry when you read books?
I have been accused of being a robot at times. But as I get older, I get soft. I mean, I am a softie anyway, but I have definitely, the waterworks have been, the screws have been loosened a bit. So I think
what happened for me was when my first child was born. I
Yeah.
didn't cry up until that point. From when I was a kid up until my mid-20s when my older daughter was born, and when she was born, after quite an ordeal, although my wife had to do most of the hard work. I cried. If it were years of tears just came out. And ever since then, I can't turn the damn thing off. So, I mean, you name it, movies, books, commercials, whatever, I don't watch TV anymore, but you get the idea. Yeah. So, that's what happened to me anyway.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But I asked because Malazan is a series that definitely has gotten a lot of tears out of me.
So. Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah. If you don't mind, just one quick question about Malazan.
Sure.
When I finish the 10 main books, what is your recommended path after this? Because I can see me being a bit of a completionist with this, and I know there are a bunch of related, series or whatever by Asselmont and Erikson.
Yes.
Firstly, do you recommend I go straight into those, or leave it a bit and reread the 10 and then go into them? And when I do go into them, where do I start?
So there is a lot of fans feel that there is an official answer to that.
Oh,
I did not do it this way, just to be upfront, and I have no regrets whatsoever. So you can take the official answer and throw it out the window as far as I'm concerned. But the official answer is publication order is the simplest way to do this. And there are
some of them published in between some of the main 10 books.
So if you're talking about the Malazan Book of the Fallen, the 10 books in there, the 10 very big books, as they're called, Esselmont's novels of the Malazan Empire begin to be published later, like after the 6th book or so.
Right.
If you want to read it in that order, publication order, that would be the strict way to do it. And then you would read more. You go back and forth between Erikson and Esselmont. And after you finish The Crippled God, you'd read the last one or two in the novels of the Malazan Empire. There are 6 of those. And then you would tackle, you would also read some of the Bocalan and Corbel Broach novellas during that, because that came out. The first of those came out during the midway through all these.
Sure.
And then you would go to the Path to Ascendancy by Esselmont, as well as the Carcanis trilogy by Erikson. Carcanis takes place hundreds of thousands of years before the Malazan Fallen. Whereas Path to Ascendancy is really more of a prequel series to both novels of the Malazan Empire and the Malazan Book of the Fallen. And now, of course, more recently, Erikson has started to publish the Witness series, which The God Is Not Willing is the first of, and we are very much looking forward to A Walk in Shadow. Oh, no, sorry, that's the next Carcanis. No Life Forsaken is the book coming out in late October, I believe, which is the second part of the Witness series. So the simplest thing is to follow publication order. However, I don't think it matters. If you want to just read, after finishing Malazan Book of the Fallen, you wanted to read, I would probably go to Novels of the Malazan Empire next by Esselmont. If you're not looking to reread the Malazan Book of the Fallen as part of a grand plan to read everything in publication order, you could do that, or you could just go to Novels of the Malazan Empire and then go to one series at a time, so to speak. That would be fine. Honestly, Bocalan and Corbel Broach novellas, you can squeeze them in anywhere you want. There's no vital information in there that will change the way you see the series or anything like that. They're mostly just absurd and comic and just fun and kind of horror leaning.
Cool.
And then you could go to either Carcanis, which is unfinished still. There's only 2. So you may want to go to the Path to Ascendancy afterwards, which is actually before chronologically, it's before novels of the Malazan Empire and the Malazan Book of the Fallen. I actually read the Past Ascendancy books before I read the novels of the Malazan Empire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And a lot of fans were like, "Oh no, you can't do that because you're not going to know who so and so is." But it's a two-way street, really. So if I'm missing the Easter eggs in Past Ascendancy, when I read novels of the Malazan Empire, I was like, "Oh, that's this character I read in Past Ascendancy." So I got the reverse. Is all.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
the impression I get from the series in general and what kind of Erickson wanted to write, at least I read like his afterwards in the Gardens of the Moon, is that his whole point of writing the way he does is kind of, where does history start anyway, right? So what's really the point in reading in chronological order or any kind of order, really, because it doesn't really matter to the story he wants to tell.
Understood the spirit of Malazan.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Understood. Because you will find people who have taken the trouble, and God bless them, but they've taken the trouble to try to actually put together a kind of like chronological order, and it's actually impossible because there are so many contradictions.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of the point.
Yeah.
In the series is this constant questioning of history and the truth, so yeah, I would say, does it matter? Nah, not really. But if you want to do it in a more orderly fashion, you could do publication order, or you could take it one series at a time, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Final question.
Yes.
When are you coming back to Iceland?
Oh my goodness! As soon as I can. I loved Iceland so much. It's just such a unique landscape, and landscapes, I should say, because it's obviously you have quite a bit of diversity within Iceland of places. But it was breathtakingly beautiful to me. Just a place of it's a bit austere in some ways, but there's beauty to that austerity as well. So yeah, I want to go back there, and one of my fantasies is to go to Iceland for a whole summer and just learn Icelandic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's something I would like to do.
All right. That sounds fun.
I don't know if I would be able to successfully drag my wife with me, though. So I don't know if she has as much interest as I do in learning Icelandic. But that
she had a fun time, it seemed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And she's a good sport too. So she might follow me there. So
well, Iceland will be very happy to have you back whenever you decide to come.
Oh yeah.
And, I'll meet up with you and we can chat books.
And maybe even you can make fun of my terrible Icelandic when I'm learning.
I would never do that. The pain that I've gone through to be able to learn this language, I have enough empathy in me to not laugh at the struggle, because I know how hard it is. Yeah. Still is. But also now they have the new museum that wasn't there when you came, with the copies of the old sagas.
Oh,
so you need to come and see them.
You're tempting me now. You're tempting. Yeah, they were returned from Denmark. Yeah.
Some of them, yes. Yeah. Okay, well, Philip, thank you so much for joining me today for a wonderful chat. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And,
I have. Yeah, definitely.
I will be putting a link to your channel. Not that anybody is going to need that, but if you haven't checked out Philip's channel, then please do, because he is, as I said, the GOAT of fantasy YouTube. Not sci-fi YouTube, though.
No,
I will say that. He's not the GOAT of that.
Not even the kid of sci-fi YouTube, yeah.
Very good. So, yeah, I'm just going to say thank you very much. And hopefully I'll be able to speak to you at some point in the near future. And have a lovely day.
All right.
So
thank you, Sam.
That's it for now. See you next time.